Hey guys, Jim Vanosky with Manufacturing Talks. I love a good story of a multi-generation business, especially a multi-generation business that's in my corner of the world of manufacturing and making stuff. And so it's really cool today. I'm joined by Matthew Nix. He is with a company called the Nix Companies. Started out in blacksmithing and has gone all kinds of different ways since then. He's fifth generation owner, operator, and he's here to tell us all about how they've taken that family business and grown it. And like I said, phenomenal story. I think you're going to like it. He'll be with us in just a minute. Stay tuned.
Welcome to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vanosky. Industry has a million cool stories, and Jim talks to the movers and shakers who are making them happen. Let's dive in.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Manufacturing Talks. I'm Jim Vanosky, your host. I'm joined today by Matthew Nix. He is the president and CEO of the Nix Companies, and he's here to tell us all about what they have going on. Welcome, Matthew.
Yeah, thanks, Jim. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you here. I mentioned just before we got on, I'm a huge fan of multi-generation family business stories, and that's one aspect of what you have happening, right?
Yeah. We love talking about that aspect. I'm passionate about family businesses too. In fact, my wife and I are involved in our local family business alliance here in our tri-state community. So love talking about that topic.
Well, we can get into all of that. Before we do, though, obviously folks want to know about you. So just tell us a little about yourself and how you got into doing what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. So like you mentioned, I'm the fifth generation in our business, and there's not a lot of fifth gen businesses out there to begin with. And something that makes us even more unique is that we were mom and pop when I joined the business, and so it was a great foundation. But when I tell people it's fifth gen, they typically think, I kind of walked into or inherited a large, substantial business, and it was truly mom and pop. It was my dad, my grandpa, and my aunt, my dad's sister. That was the entire business. Wow. So they sort of defied the odds of the old saying, if you're not growing, you're dying. For 4 generations, it was a very sound business, provided for 4 generations of families. Sort of upper middle class lifestyle. I mean, it was a good business. It just they didn't grow, and it started as a blacksmith shop. My great grandfather immigrated from Germany in the 1880s, and then moved to our town in around the turn of the century. And we say since 1902. I think we're being pretty conservative there. That was the oldest record we could find, but I doubt he sat around for all those years. Those old Germans, they didn't sit around.
Right.
So been in continuous operation in our little town, Poseyville, Indiana. It's a small farm town off of Interstate 64 in southwestern Indiana, and evolved from a blacksmith shop to a mom and pop welding shop. And that's really what it was when I joined the business. We fixed farm equipment, real cornerstone kind of business. There's one of these in every town in the U.S. You can't throw a dart at a map without hitting a town that has a welding shop. It's usually family owned. Like I said, those businesses are cornerstone in the community. They fix stuff for people. They fix the broken, patio furniture to the farm equipment and bulldozers and all that stuff. That's what we did. And Dad got into commercial fabrication just on a very small scale, and I was intrigued by that. And I grew up working there and went to Vincennes University for 1 year for welding, and came back and just jumped into the business, and didn't realize it at the time, but I had entrepreneurial itch that I just couldn't get rid of. And slowly but surely, Dad let me grow the business a little bit, and he gave me a little bit of a rope, and I would run with it as far as I could. And then eventually my brother joined the business. We bought our parents out. And since that time, we've grown the business to about 160 team members. We've done a few acquisitions. We've got multiple locations and operating divisions, but metal fabrication and industrial repair is still really the core of our business today. And then we formed a parent company where we've invested in some other, ancillary things, or some things that are kind of somewhat related to our core business, but family holding company. So yeah, that's just a little bit of the cliff notes about my background and sort of where we are today.
So you refer to the fact that being 5 generations in now, you've defied the odds, and kind of the rule of thumb out there is that most companies, the family multi-generation companies, fall apart in generation 3, right?
Yeah.
So what is it that was the secret for you guys to be able to get not only past that, but 2 generations past where most of these kinds of businesses get to?
Yeah, I've thought about that, and again, it stayed small. So, I mean, generally speaking, a smaller business is less complex. It's just less complex. I mean, you just have less issues to deal with. Uh, I think the other thing, which may not be a popular thought, but I just think it's the reality, is that there weren't multiple siblings in the business at once, and I say that as a partner with my brother now, and recognizing that
Yeah.
adds a level of complexity. And when you bring the cousin in the family business world, we call it the cousin consortium. When you
Yeah.
get to that level, it really gets complicated, and I'd like to talk about some of that in a minute, but. Yeah, so there was, even though it was 5 generations, there was only brothers involved at Gen 2 for very, very brief time. And actually, the 2 eldest brothers sold it to the youngest brother. There were 5 boys in Gen 2, and the
Okay.
youngest brother, they went on to other business endeavors. The youngest brother was my great grandfather, and he had it, and then his son had it, and his son had it, and his son had it, and so Adam and I, my brother, first time there's been brothers. So I mean, I attribute it just to that, that, and they had enough boys that somebody wanted to
Well,
keep it,
yeah.
right? I mean, that's just the way it was back then.
That's right. Yep.
So yeah, I don't have any complicated answer for it. I think that's it. But now, to your point, how do we keep it going? It's a much more substantial business with a lot more complexity, and I have 3 kids. My brother has 3 kids.
Yeah.
And so, we have to be very intentional about keeping that. We want to keep it alive, and so we work with a family business advisor already. The oldest of the 6 gens, only 10. So we have 6 from 10 down to 0. I mean, 3 months old.
Yep.
We're already meeting with a family business advisor, talking about, getting employment agreements for the next gen, and what are the expectations? How do you become an employee? How do you become a manager? How do you become a shareholder? Who can be a shareholder? How we make decisions. We already have an outside advisory board, which I think is really key. Highly recommend that. We have 5 independent advisors, and so that's been huge for us. So we try to run the business, in a more mature manner. I mean, we're not perfect; we still screw up, but it does help.
But you're still around, so you may not be perfect, but you kind of exceeded expectations there. Another thing I've heard from other folks who've grappled with this conundrum of the multi-generation business is that it's that 3rd generation that kind of is the victims of the success. They get to a point where either
Yeah.
they don't want to work, or they're kind of assuming they're going to be part of this company without ever building
Yeah.
the skills or the
Yeah.
abilities they need to keep it going. So obviously that's not the case, just with the way you described how your company.
Yeah, but that's I'm glad you brought that up, because we're a 5th gen business, and I don't take anything away from those before us, but practically speaking, we look and feel a lot more like a 2nd gen business, just
Mhm.
simply because, when it was still mom and pop when Dad had it.
Right.
So that tends to mirror more like the founder. He would be, if you look at it compared to most situations, he would be like the founder. And
Yep.
then Gen 2 grew it. That's what you typically see. Gen 2 grows it, and then Gen 3 sort of has a great life and had, I'm using the stereotype, had everything given to them and thinks they're going to just inherit the business because it's owed to them, or what have you.
Yep.
And that tends to be the cycle that people talk about. To what extent that's reality or just stereotype, I don't know. But so my point is, yeah, our kids are going to be more like Gen 3. And so how do we make sure that doesn't happen? And I think, it starts with being very intentional about, having a structure and letting them know right now that, look, here's the expectations. You're not going to just walk in and take this thing over. You got to want to be involved. You don't have to be involved. And then, it's really, really hard, but making sure they're just not spoiled little brats. They got to work in the business and get dirty and do everything we did. My son's 10 and he was at the shop last week sweeping the floor and cleaning up. And I think that's important for them to see that.
Right. The other thing you mentioned that I want to stress, because I heard it elsewhere too, I spent some time, and actually had on the show here a while back, a guy named Jake Monti. He's with a company called Astor Brands. It's way up north of me here in Michigan. Also, I believe, fifth generation company. And you both mentioned that outside help, the counselors for family businesses, and the external board.
Yeah.
So, not believing that you have to do it yourself is obviously a key element for both of you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only are you getting counsel, it really, I think, just sets the tone for everybody that we're going to be professional and disciplined about how we manage the
Right.
business. I mean, that in and of itself, I think, is a big thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that, families can be a mess and you have to draw some lines, don't you?
Yep. Yep.
Interesting. Well, and then you mentioned your entrepreneurial bug, and I heard in the lead up to this, talking to your folks, that you're a big advocate in my world of manufacturing that we need more of that entrepreneurial spirit. Talk about that.
Yeah. Well, just from a practicality standpoint, I mean, the manufacturing business are predominantly owned by baby boomers right now, and they're
Yep.
they're exiting in droves, retirement. And so just from a purely practical, like, yeah, I said, I don't think it's a stretch to say it's a national security risk, even, uh, not to mention just having our basic needs met, that we've got to have these businesses and we need folks to take them over. And I use the word entrepreneur, and people tend to think like tech and, all
Mhm.
these, but it doesn't have to be that. What I mean is
Right.
we just need people that are willing to own the business. Because I see folks like the right hand man or woman to these very successful businesses that don't want to take them over. They're like,
Yeah.
well, I'm happy. I just get a paycheck. And a lot, because I look at quite a few acquisition opportunities, and there's been cases where the owner's spending 6 months in Florida and this guy's running the show, and the
Yeah.
owner wants to sell it. That's why I'm there at the table. And I'm like, why the hell aren't you buying it?
Right.
So, I just think we need to promote that more as a overall industry. And we've even taken it a step further. We've built a business around this. We did a startup last year called Profab Alliance, and our mission kind of summarizes it. It says we help fabrication and machine shop owners grow their business, maximize their profits, and live a more balanced life. And under that umbrella, one of those things is succession planning. We see that a lot, but just helping these folks transition their business. We have one client we're working with now, and another we're talking to. That's precisely what we're doing, is just helping them get ready to transition it. There's a lot of things we can do around that. But on the flip side, I'm also looking for people that want to own and operate these businesses, because we can't buy them all. I mean,
Yeah. Right.
there's going to be thousands and thousands of these businesses that are going to transact probably in the next decade. And, if I'm lucky, I'm going to buy a handful of them. So
Yeah.
there's just a lot of opportunity out there in our space to help buyers and sellers.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really interesting. It's kind of funny, on the show here, we've talked extensively about the workforce angle of that baby
Yep.
boomer situation. And, obviously, when it comes to the skilled trades, that's one of our big negatives, is that so many of the boomers were those skilled tradespeople who are going out the door, and we can't backfill them. But you raise an excellent point about the business owners as well.
Yep. Yeah, because the alternative is we'll just see major market consolidation. I mean,
Yeah.
the work's going to get done. Make no mistake about it. Yes, the skilled labor thing is a real problem. Believe me, we're dealing with it all the time. I'm not making light of that. But automation will fix some of it.
Yep.
The work has to get done. So that'll some way, shape, or form take care of itself. We'll start paying enough that people will do it. We'll automate, whatever. But on the ownership side, the alternative to entrepreneurs is going to be major market consolidation, which
Yep.
will happen inevitably. But I just hate the idea of our industry being 80-90% corporate owned, because
Right.
and again, you talk about, security risk, the nimbleness of
Mhm.
small family businesses to be able to
Yep.
pivot and do things in a time of national crisis or need
Yep.
is tremendous. I think, I think that's just something that's underappreciated, and not to mention small businesses they're just better stewards in the community. And so I
Right.
just don't want to see that go away.
No, that's a superb point. I mean, that whole cornerstone of the community piece, I think, is one that so many people miss because, businesses like yours, you even kind of referred to it. They blend into the background. People don't see them like they do the big corporations. But then, exactly like you said, when the crises hit and the community needs that support, it's not coming from the big corporations.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm doing my little bit to help my older son tried a semester of college, decided it wasn't for him. He's now looking at plumbing, and I said,
Yep.
go into it thinking, number one, yeah, it's a great field, and you're not going to want for work, but start thinking about owning your own place because there's going to
Yep.
be opportunities for you to buy
Oh
what
yeah.
these baby boomers are selling.
Yeah, absolutely.
So excellent point on that, Matthew. Now let's go back to this growth piece because it's so intriguing to me. I mean, you had obviously a good thing going with the core business that your
Yep.
forebears built
Yep.
up.
Yep.
But you and your brother have taken it in some really interesting directions. I was looking at your website and there's stuff that is closely aligned, but then other stuff that's like, wow, that's
Yep.
kind of wild. So
Right.
talk about that.
Yeah. Well, first I want to point out too that my wife's a big part of it.
Okay.
She left her job. I don't know, a few years into our marriage. We got married pretty young, right, basically right when she graduated from college, and she went and worked in accounting for a few years. And then as we started growing the business, she joined our business and has been a tremendous part of it as well. Only recently have we got to the point where we've built out a nice professional management team, and she's been able to scale back some and spend
Mhm.
more time with our kids, but she still works 3 or 4 days a week and is very involved. So,
Superb.
from a family standpoint, my wife and brother and I all together, along with a tremendous leadership team that we've built,
Mhm.
grown the business. But yeah, to your point, we've grown the legacy company, as we refer to it. It's now branded Nix Industrial. We were Nix Welding. It was my father's business. Nix Metals is what I first rebranded to, and now today we've rebranded to Nix Industrial. Still the same business. It's just a better representation of what all we do
Yeah.
today. So, and we've grown that business the most, and it still is a significant part of our overall portfolio. It's probably 80+% of our family holding company is still the legacy business. I'd like to get that to 50-50. There's
Mhm.
no perfect math or reason for that. I just think simply from a diversity standpoint in our holding, we would like to make sure that legacy company transitions to the next generation. And I just feel like if we have some other holdings that are outside of that, that just gives us some latitude to possibly enter and exit businesses and just have some liquidity in our family.
Yeah. Yep.
When
And some
families,
diversification.
that's right. Yeah, when a family holding portfolio, most of your family's wealth is tied up in that. It's just the way it
Yeah.
is. And so
Right.
you're not really liquid. It's not like you can just go online and sell some stocks, And so we
Yeah.
just tried to diversify a little bit. So that if you see those businesses, like we own half of a marketing company, and we just did the startup of the consulting company Profab I mentioned. We have a
Yep.
real estate holding company. We own a heavy industrial body shop. We work on semi trucks, buses, motor coaches, RVs, and so those are a little bit outside of the core business lane, and that was the reason behind that.
Yep. Yep. I love that point you made. I want to call it out because so many people hear these numbers that people throw around about the wealthy people and how much they're worth, right?
Right.
And Exactly right. It's not like they're sitting on a pile of cash that they can just go out and
I've
spend.
never,
It's all
I've never
tied
had
up.
any, I've never had any cash. We're always,
Well, that's
we're,
the funny
we're
thing. I hear
always
that so
broke.
often is,
Yeah.
I'm sure your
Yeah.
on paper net value or net worth, I mean, is
More than I
not
ever thought. Yeah.
bad.
More than I
And
ever
yeah,
thought it would be. Yeah.
yet you live kind of hand to mouth sometimes, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I mean, we go on nice vacations, so
Yeah.
we don't drive beaters. But yeah, no, to your point. Yeah. We don't have piles of cash sitting around. Maybe someday, but, yeah. And another thing to your point, yeah, the net worth thing on paper can look good. But that's also only if you keep it going. I mean,
Exactly.
it
Right.
might be worth this much today, but tomorrow you can lose a few zeros real quick.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so you got to keep coming back and making it happen. We talk about that as a family too, about transitioning the business, and one of the reasons why I want to see our family continue to manage the business isn't necessarily for the continuation of wealth. There's probably a lot easier ways to do it. I just think it builds a lot of good virtue to have to run the
Mhm.
business. The fact that you have to get up every day and work hard and treat people well, treat your team members well, make good decisions, take care of your customers, to perpetuate that. Just I think it just builds good virtue, and so for me, there's a lot of families that manage wealth like they have just stock and other assets. They're just
Mhm.
managing the assets, right, and do a great job of that. I just feel like I would be, I don't know, I would have a hard time with that.
You'd be bored out of your skull, wouldn't you?
Yeah, not only bored, I just don't think I would be my best version of myself of
Yeah.
doing that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd like to think you could just live a life of charity and volunteer every day, and I don't know. That's just me, I guess.
Not your cup of tea.
No.
Okay, so you've obviously done some good work on the growth side, but to say it the way you did, I think glosses over what had to be some real challenges here and there. So
Oh
why don't
yeah.
you talk about a few of those?
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, you always see, we grew 100x in 20 years, and when you look at our bar graph, it's the nice hockey stick. It looks very impressive. But what you don't see in there is all the, very difficult challenges along the way. And I, was sharing with you before we started recording here. I mean, business is tough for us right now. It's an election year. Interest rates are sky high. It's impacted us. We had a record year last year, and this year we're just fighting and scraping and paying our bills. So you go through that as a business owner, and I'm really re-engaging in the core business right now. We've been blessed that we've got a good leadership team, and I was able to focus on things like starting the new consulting business, Profab. And here recently, I've had to really re-engage in the legacy business, and that's just part of it. So I don't think you ever get past that as long as you're in business. But yeah, we've had some big challenges along the way. I think cash flow is always one of them. That's probably
Yeah.
not surprising to anybody that's in a capital intensive business like ours. I think anybody that's done anything, if they say they haven't ever had cash flow problems, they're lying.
Right.
We have a great CFO now, good accounting team, and we've developed a decent level of financial sophistication and wherewithal that, we're not worried about surviving month to month, but it still can be, as you grow and think about, it seems like every damn thing we talk about doing starts with $1 million. It's just crazy. Every machine, everything. It's just crazy expensive.
Yeah.
We were just looking at doing some site work this year of putting in a bigger gravel laydown yard and a new parking lot and a new entrance, and it was almost $1 million. There was no building involved. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just
Isn't that
mind
crazy?
blowing that what
Yep.
stuff costs. And so, just trying to manage all that, managing capital expenditures and project cash flow. That's always a big challenge. And then the other two challenges is, talent, of course, that's everybody's challenge.
Yep.
Managing that, especially when you're in growth mode. Not only finding the talent, but for us, we're really big on our corporate culture. I know a lot of people talk about that, but we're very serious about it. And so not growing faster than that you can maintain your
Yep.
corporate culture. That's difficult. And then the third challenge, I think, is just systems and processes. How do you, as you kind of if you look at our revenue, I said it's like that nice hockey stick, but the reality really is it's like step change. You go up and then you plateau, and then you go up and you plateau. And at each one of those step changes, there's usually some new element of systems and processes you need to put in place to be able to go to the next level. And that's been a challenge. And really those challenges we've lived through and we continue to live through are really the basis behind our consulting business we started. I said, look, these are all the challenges we've dealt with. These are the things we've had to put in place to overcome it. I know there's a lot of other businesses that have these same challenges. And so let's just package all that up and help them. And that's what we've done.
It's really clear just hearing you talk about your culture and talent pool and the way you run your business, that you're all about your people there. But I also know that you believe businesses should be a force for good more broadly. So why don't you talk a little bit about that as well?
Yeah, just fundamentally, I think, well, first of all, the free market in, America in particular, is that system has, elevated more people in a socioeconomic way than anything in the world. And I know that sounds a little bit cliche and like, duh, but I think today we need to talk about that more. Like, I don't think that's
Agreed.
quite as obvious to everybody as what it once was. And so
Right.
I'm trying to bang that drum and say, look, yeah, it's kind of a screwed up country we live in right now. And yeah, that the corporate America can get a bad rap sometime, but like nothing has ever done more socioeconomic good than for-profit free market enterprise. And so that's first and foremost. And then the next thing was, I just think personally for me, I'm a big believer in, to whom much has been given, much is expected. And I think God's blessed me with, business is, one of my gifts. And so I should use that, not, there's people that are going and doing great charitable things and starting nonprofits, and all that's wonderful. I just think I should do what I was called to do. And so I want to leverage our business as a force for good. And so that's really where that, that's kind of, I guess, the philosophy behind why I say that. And you see, that's my tagline on my LinkedIn, is business is a force for good.
Yeah. And I couldn't agree more on the free market side. It is unfortunate that we've seen basically a generation of that being disparaged, and it's going to wind up hurting us if we don't turn it around. Hurting everybody. So I'll join you in helping bang that drum. How's that sound?
Thank you. Even internally, I preach that to our team, because the average team members, you don't know what things they've heard or where they come from. And so we have our guiding principles. It goes, we believe, we value, we practice, we deliver. Those are the four. And then there's things under that. Well, under we believe, the very first thing it said, and I did this on purpose, it says, we believe business is honorable. And so like that, to me, that's foundational. Everything else comes from that. If you don't believe, profit's good, that if you don't have that mindset, I mean, how do you ever motivate a team member to want to be more efficient if they don't believe the company being profitable is a good thing?
Yeah, for sure. Well said. Okay, so you're in a bit of a tough year, but I know you're not letting that get you down. So thinking beyond that, getting the ship back on that smooth sailing path, what are the opportunities you're looking at in the future for the Nix companies?
Yeah, we continue to invest in acquisition opportunities. In fact, we're in due diligence on a nice one right now that will roll up into our legacy business, Nix Industrial, and continue to look for opportunities that are other holdings or platforms that would be outside of that. So we're doing that. I'm really excited about, I know I've mentioned it multiple times. That's because I'm excited about it, is our franchise business. And we're launching a new thing under that, which is our new consulting business. Under that is franchising. And we're the first in the industry to offer this, simply because I saw this, just exactly what we talked about earlier. There's this big wave of businesses that are going to transact. And there's folks that have the ability to run them, but don't have the toolbox to do that, and maybe wouldn't have the confidence to do it. And so there's a saying in franchising that I really think sums it up, and it says, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. And so we've built a platform and a back office and a toolbox for these owner operators, that they can own and operate their own business as part of our brand and our system. And so we're rolling that out right now. We've got a couple in the hopper, and I'm really excited about what we can do there, both for our company and just to help other people. One of my personal goals is to help 100 people realize their dream of owning their own business. And so,
Nice.
and, that's kind of in alignment with, my personal philosophy I talked about earlier, how I think I can give back. So excited about that. And then one other thing we have going on is we've got a book coming out in December. It's called Forging Ahead, and obvious play there on the blacksmith origins of our business. But the really talented writer Angie Klink is her name, and she wrote the story about our family and our business and how we went from mom and pop business to we were, I think, number 37 on Fabricators top. They call it the Fab 40, the 40 largest fabricators in the country. So it really kind of tells the story of how did we go from mom and pop to one of the 40 largest fabricators in the country in about 20 years. And so she did a great job, and we're excited to share that book. I've had so many books that have impacted me along the way. And I think if we can help other family businesses or other entrepreneurs in our industry, that would be really cool.
That is cool. I'll definitely be looking for that book. I'm a big reader myself, and love the franchising idea. I think especially in our world, the kind of manufacturing and making things world, you have a lot of very talented people who might struggle on that business side.
Yeah.
So just I really love what you're doing there.
Yeah. Thank you.
We're about out of time. Have we missed anything? Anything that we need to hear that we didn't cover?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, I think we hit it
Excellent.
all. Yeah.
Well, this is a phenomenal story, Matthew. I really appreciate you joining us.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yep. Thank you. And of course, as always, thank you to those of you in the audience. You guys are why we're here. We have a show every Tuesday. And this story, I think is just inspiring. I can't promise that every show we have will be this inspiring, but they're all going to be at least a little inspiring. So come on back next Tuesday and we'll be here.
Yeah. Thank you, Jim. Yeah. I guess one other thing I did forget to mention is I'm a partner in our own podcast as well, making Sparks. And we are under the Making Chips umbrella. They're one of the longest running. Yeah. So we partnered with those guys, and we've got our own spinoff show from that. And so we're still running on their feed right now. We're going to move over to our own feed soon, but makingchips.com. You can check us out there, and Jim will make sure to give you a plug on our show as well. And so
cool.
we're both trying to promote our industry and do the same things.
Yeah, absolutely. Love those guys at Making Chips. So it's really cool that you got in with them, and I'll include a link to their show so that people can navigate over to yours.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Well, again, thanks so much. And thanks to you all out there. As always, from Manufacturing Talks, I'm Jim Vinosky. We'll see you next week. So long.
Thanks for tuning in to Manufacturing Talks with Jim Vinosky. Watch for new episodes dropping every Tuesday. And don't forget to like, share, comment, and subscribe.